Chapter 31. On the Grand Central Parkway, Mitchell Hoffman guided his new Mercedes 420 SEL sedan east through the gusting snow. The storm didn't bother him at all. He felt absolutely wonderful. It wasn't just the high of the 5 glasses of 12-year-old Chivas and the 4 lines of top-quality cocaine that he'd had at the corporate Christmas party either. It was a lot of things. He'd had an enormously successful year. The chairman had said that intense and quick-witted Mitchell Hoffman was one of the shrewdest traders the Wall Street firm had. It had taken an effort not to correct the chairman. Mitch Hoffman knew, beyond any doubt, that he was the shrewdest and the most brilliant. He was the most skillful, the most insightful, the toughest, the best. He was nearly 29, and he'd have his first million before 30. No, 2 million. He was on a roll. Nothing could stop him. In business, on the squash court, anywhere. Mitch Hoffman would have it all. He was heading straight for the top. He thought about his glamorous blonde wife and grinned. He'd be on top of her in about half an hour, and he'd make fantastic love to her until she screamed in ecstasy. Not just once. Masterful Mitch Hoffman would have her shrieking and moaning all night. He looked at the speedometer and scowled. This was ridiculous. Maybe 30 goddamn miles an hour was all right for the uneasy mediocrities behind the wheels of the other vehicles, but a superb driver such as Mitch Hoffman didn't have to creep along with them. He didn't have the time to waste with these nervous non-entities. He had a terrific car, complete control of it, and no fear of the snow or anything else. He began to accelerate. The maroon Mercedes glided past the other cars easily. No problem at all. Then he saw the fork in the multi-lane highway directly ahead. He was almost upon it. This was where he had to veer right to get onto the Van Wyck Expressway that ran past Kennedy out towards Cedarhurst. His wife was waiting for him, hungrily, in his big waterfront house in Cedarhurst. Damn it, a cluster of cars was crawling along, all bunched together. They were blocking his way. He wasn't going to put up with that stupidity. Hoffman stepped on the gas contemptuously, speeding to sweep past the FBI convoy. He was flashing by the 4th sedan when he hit a patch of icy slush. The heavy Mercedes slid, swerved, and bucked as he struggled for control. Then it spun and crashed into the left rear of the car carrying Arnold Lloyd. The impact at 50 miles an hour knocked the FBI sedan out of the tight security formation. The government car lurched off to the right, careening at an angle before it rolled over onto its roof and slid forward. Sparks flew as the metal top scraped along the highway. It was the FBI sedan behind it that smashed into the rear of the Mercedes. The drivers of the other 6 federal cars were slamming on their brakes, and the agents inside them were shouting into their radios. "Wagon train! Wagon train!" the convoy commander called out immediately. That was the code phrase for an ambush. Kincaid thought they were under premeditated attack by some heavily armed and fanatical force. He didn't have any idea as to who or how many of the raiders there were, but he knew that the bastards weren't going to take any of his prisoners. "Wagon train! Wagon train!" he repeated. While the drivers of civilian vehicles swung wide into the left lane to avoid ramming the suddenly stopped group of unmarked government cars, determined FBI agents poured from their sedans with their pistols and submachine guns at the ready. They swiftly took up defensive positions behind their cars and prepared to do battle. Hoffman was not aware of this. His 3-week-old Mercedes had whipsawed off the highway into a large boulder. Aglow with whiskey and cocaine confidence when he'd entered his car 39 minutes earlier, the almost but not quite perfect stock trader had made one error. He had not bothered to fasten his seatbelt. As a result, part of his face was smeared across the inside of the expensive West German windshield, and all of him was dead. Arnold Lloyd was alive. Everyone else in the turned-over car was either unconscious or badly injured. Lloyd had a broken left shoulder and was bleeding profusely from a 2-inch face cut, but he wasn't hurt nearly as seriously as the government agents beside him. The pain didn't affect Lloyd's mind one bit. He was totally alert. For a moment he wondered whether someone had staged this to break him loose. He immediately decided that it didn't matter. This was his one opportunity to defeat them all. He took it. The broken shoulder hurt terribly as he forced open a door and wriggled from the ruined car. Lloyd didn't cry out, though. As a veteran professional, he realized that he could not afford to do anything to draw the attention or the fire of the other FBI agents nearby. Forcing himself to stifle any normal sound of pain, he crouched low as he circled the smashed sedan. They didn't see him. He had to get away from here, at once. Maybe the billowing snow would shield him. The FBI men would probably be watching this side of the divided multi-lane highway. He'd make a run for the other side, and the cars heading back to the city. Not exactly a run. He was too battered for that. He jogged and staggered and stumbled towards the divider, dodging civilian vehicles as he lurched towards escape. He was panting from the shock and the agony. It felt as if something inside him might be broken too. He was struggling over the divider when one of the FBI men saw him. The agent pointed at him and swung up his submachine gun. "Don't shoot!" Kincaid shouted. "Get him!" 4 special agents ran out into the flow of traffic. They were young, strong, bold. They hadn't been in an automobile smash-up, and they were in much better physical condition than Lloyd was after his months of incarceration. They were at the divider in seconds. They were about to vault the low barrier when it happened. Lloyd was almost across the other side of the highway when the wood-paneled station wagon hit him. It really wasn't the fault of the woman behind the wheel. Visibility was awful, and no one would expect somebody to dash out onto a highway a mile from any exit. She saw him at the last moment and twisted her wheel sharply in a frantic effort to avoid him. She almost succeeded. She shrieked as she felt the impact. The sound of that thump of human meeting metal was terrible. His body flew through the air like some discarded toy, hurtling 40 feet before it dropped onto the side of the road. She stepped on the brake and began to shudder. She was still shaking a minute later when a group of men carrying guns suddenly appeared. "I'm sorry," she managed to say. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't see him. I'm sorry." Then she began to cry. "It wasn't your fault," Kincaid assured her. "We know that." He saw that she was staring at the pistol in his hand. He slid it into his shoulder holster and took out his official identity card. He held it open for her to examine. "We're the FBI," he said. "I'm Inspector Barry Kincaid. The man who ran in front of your car was a federal prisoner trying to escape." She was still shuddering. "Nobody's going to blame you," he told her as he put away his ID folder. "You couldn't have seen him in time, not in this weather. Nobody could. It was an unavoidable accident." She began to cry. "Stay with her." Kincaid ordered one of the agents and walked away towards the body. As he trudged through the falling snow, he thought about tomorrow. He might well be held responsible for the death of Lloyd, and any airline passengers who perished because the terrorists' demands were not fully met. He stopped to glance across the highway at the FBI cars and the Mercedes. There had been no assault by armed fanatics. Just one bad driver who had lost control of a $45,000 sedan in a raging storm. The security formation and the well-trained special agents with machine guns could have dealt with almost anything, except that. Kincaid reached the body and looked down at it in anger. He couldn't believe what he saw. One of Lloyd's eyes was open, staring at him hatefully. The corpse was gasping. The impact of being hit by a car doing 25 or 30 miles an hour had injured him gravely, but against all odds, Arnold Lloyd was still alive.